what Ezra Pound gave birth to through pointing you in the direction of the Federal Reserve has reached millions and millions of people. And, you know, if you had never written, I can say this safely, if you had never written another word after your book on the Federal Reserve, you would be a legend. But you've written so many other books on other topics. You did the history of the Jews.
The new history of the Jews.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Mullins' new history of the Jews, yeah. The biological Jew.
Oh, yes.
Murder by injection. A writ for martyrs. And I keep thinking, oh, well, and of course, the world order, but I keep thinking I'm missing one.
Well, Curse of Canaan was the real one. That was a demonology in world history.
That's right, Curse of Canaan. Okay, yeah.
Curse of Canaan has got a lot of terrific stuff in there.
Yeah. Now, Eustace, you know, where can people get your books? I mean, can you give out an address where people can write you, or what's the best way for those who don't have copies of your books to get the ones that are available?
Well, I have some available right here at my home in Stanton, Virginia. It's 126 Madison Place, Stanton, Virginia, 24401.
126 Madison Place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And Stanton, Virginia is also, by coincidence, the birthplace of Woodrow Wilson, the traitor who betrayed us to the international bankers with the Federal Reserve System.
That's kind of ironic, you know.
It is quite ironic. Wilson's birthplace is about 4 blocks from where I'm talking to you on the phone right now.
What do you think the people in the New World Order forces and the Jewish organizations like the Anti-Defamation League are going to do? What do you think about that, Eustace?
Well, you know, a little Jewish printer on the Lower East Side printed the first printing of the Federal Reserve in 1953.
No kidding.
And I stopped by to see him one day, and he said, "You're still walking around?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I thought you'd be in jail." He said, "You know, that book is criminal libel from beginning to end." And this was a printer. I guess he was afraid he'd go to prison himself. But I was very surprised by that because I had never thought of libeling anybody.
That issue, one of the early printings of the book was actually officially burned by the German government, wasn't it?
Oh, 10,000 copies were burned by a communist spy in East Germany. And the poor guy that printed the book, put his life savings into it, was Guido Rader, and he managed the Obergammerau Passion play in Germany.
Okay, that's interesting.
And it wiped him out.
You're talking to somebody, that is Eustace Mullins, who has had those experiences. Is that not right, Eustace?
Well, you know, the FBI terrorized my family for years, and they used to go around and to my family members here in Stanton, Virginia, and they'd say, "I hope you've got a good picture of Eustace so you remember him, because you're not going to see him again for a long time."
You know, and they're the ones that talk about terrorism. I think that's terrorism of its worst sort.
That is terrorism. I'll tell you, my family was terrorized. Some of them are still afraid to talk to me.
Well, you know, again, this is all part and parcel of the effort to not just terrorize people, which they do terrorize people, but they demonize people. And
demonize, yes.
I thought, you know, coming back to J. Edgar Hoover, you know, in my latest book, the Judas Goats, I have a very special page in that book reproducing an actual document that J. Edgar Hoover signed off on, in which he was actually proposing, he and his FBI associates, I think one of his Jewish associates, Alex Rosen, Eustace, they had a plan to put you in an insane asylum because they didn't like what you were saying about J. Edgar Hoover.
Well, that's right. J. Edgar Hoover called me the most dangerous man in America because he thought I was dangerous to him. I wasn't dangerous to anybody else.
But he actually had this plan then to find any way he could to put you in an insane asylum.
Oh, there were 10 assistant directors of the FBI, each one of which is enormously powerful, and he notified the 10 assistant directors of the FBI that this was to be top priority to put Mullins in a mental institution. And, of course, I was in Chicago and knew nothing about any of this whatsoever.
Of course, the FBI was busy harassing a lot of your friends and associates, too, during this time. So that's something, you know, again, people people thought that in those days that the FBI was going out after communists and after bad men, but it turned out the FBI was going after writers like Eustace Mullins. And it was Ezra Pound who first focused you in the direction of the Federal Reserve System, and it can be said very, very honestly and without qualification that if you had not written your book, it was originally the Federal Reserve Conspiracy, been reissued as Secrets of the Federal Reserve, but if you had not written that book, millions and millions of people would know nothing about the Federal Reserve System. So if you could, just give us a few minutes and talk about how you got onto the Federal Reserve through your association with Ezra Pound.
Well, I got onto it through Ezra Pound, and quite simply, when he asked me to go to the Library of Congress and see what I could find out about the Federal Reserve System, I had never heard of the Federal Reserve System.
Okay.
And so he had to pull a dollar bill out of his bathrobe at the lunatic asylum there, and show me a greenback note with the Federal Reserve prominently on the top, which millions of people handle those bills every day, and they never see those signs, the Federal Reserve on the top, because they don't pay any attention to it.
Don't pay any attention to it. That's right. Mm-hmm.
But after my book, I told them about the Federal Reserve and the fact that it was not federal, it had no reserves because it printed all the money it wanted.
How many copies of the Federal Reserve book and its various incarnations have you yourself distributed, Eustace? Because I know a lot of people who have plagiarized your work, a lot of people have pirated your work, but how many copies do you know of yourself that are in circulation?
Well, about 1 million.
That's amazing.
Oh, yes. But there's 18 plagiarizations of it, and there's actually have been about 20 million books, copies of that book distributed in this country since 1953 when I printed the first printing.